Welcome to Oak Ridge County, where wealthy rancher Bo Callan has everything money can buy, except what his heart truly desires, someone to share his life with. When Mira Dalton arrives at his ranch with a gift for healing broken animals and a past as wounded as his own, both will discover that true connection requires trust, honesty, and courage. Before we begin this story, comment below where you're watching from. The morning sun spilled over the rolling hills of Oak Ridge County, casting long shadows across Bo Callan's sprawling cattle ranch. At 33, Bo had everything money could buy: a mansion on the hill, hundreds of acres of prime farmland, and enough cattle to make him the envy of every rancher for miles. But money couldn't buy what he really wanted: company. Someone to share it all with. Bo stood on his wide front porch, coffee mug in hand, watching his workers tend to the morning chores. His ranch foreman, Pete, approached with a worried look. "Bad news, boss. Hank just gave his notice, says his wife's mother is sick and they need to move closer to help out." Bo frowned. Hank had been his animal caretaker for nearly 5 years. The animals trusted him, and finding someone with his touch wouldn't be easy. When's he leaving? End of the week. But he says he knows someone, a woman named Mira Dalton. Worked with her at the Henderson place before it sold. Says she's got a way with animals like he's never seen. Bo sighed. Call her in for an interview tomorrow. That night, Bo sat alone at his massive dining table, pushing food around his plate. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. He'd built this place thinking someday it would be filled with laughter and love. Instead, all he had was emptiness and the constant whispers around town, people who wanted to be near him for his money, his land, his status. Never for him. Just Bo. The next morning, a beat-up truck pulled into the long driveway. From his office window, Bo watched a slender woman step out. She wore worn jeans, boots that had seen better days, and a faded jacket. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple braid that hung down her back. Pete showed her in. "Boss, this is Mira Dalton." She wasn't what Bo expected. No makeup, no forced smile, just clear eyes that met his directly. "Mr. Callan," she said with a small nod. "Miss Dalton, have a seat." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Pete tells me you have experience with livestock." "Yes, sir. Been working with animals since I was a child. My father had a small farm in Idaho before he passed." "And what brings you to our part of the country?" Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe. But it was gone so fast he thought he might have imagined it. Needed a change, was all, she said. He asked her about her experience, her knowledge of cattle health, her comfort with long hours. Her answers were short but confident. No bragging, no overselling, just facts. "Can you start tomorrow?" he asked when they were done. She nodded. "I can start today if you need." An hour later, Bo found himself walking Mira through the barns, introducing her to the animals she'd be caring for. He noticed how the nervous new mare, one nobody could get close to, quieted when Mira approached. The horse lowered its head, nostrils flaring gently as Mira stood still, just letting the animal sense her. "She's beautiful," Mira said softly. "What's her name?" "Doesn't have one yet, just got her at auction last week." Mira nodded, slowly extending her hand to the mare. The horse didn't pull away. "I think I'll call her Willow," Bo said, surprising himself. He never named the livestock. Too personal. Too much chance for heartbreak when they were sold or lost. "Suits her," Mira replied, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. For the next few weeks, Bo found reasons to be around the barns more than usual. He told himself he was just checking on his new employee, making sure she was working out. But the truth was, he was drawn to the quiet way she moved through her days. Unlike the women who came to his charity events in town, batting their eyelashes and laughing too loudly at his jokes, Mira asked for nothing, expected nothing. She just did her job with a steady grace that made him feel calm in a way he hadn't in years. One morning, he found her in the barn, tending to a newborn calf that was struggling to stand. "Will he make it?" Bo asked, leaning against the stall. "Sure, he wants to," she said, gently helping the wobbly calf find its footing. "Sometimes that's all it takes." He watched her work, the way her hands moved with certainty, the way she hummed something soft and nameless to the frightened animal. "You're good at this," he said. "At what?" "Healing things." She looked up, and their eyes met for a long moment. Some things heal themselves. They just need someone to give them space to do it. A week later, a severe storm rolled through. Bo found Mira in the barn with Willow, who was terrified of the thunder. Mira sat on a hay bale, stroking the horse's neck, speaking too softly for him to hear. The mare's eyes were wide, but she wasn't thrashing like she had during the last storm. "You're soaked," he said, noticing Mira's wet clothes. "I was checking the fence line when it started. Didn't want to leave her alone with the storm coming." Without thinking, he shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Her eyes widened slightly, but she nodded her thanks. "You should go up to the house, get dry," he said. "I'm fine here." "You've got a gift," he said, the words coming out before he could stop them. She shrugged. "I just listen. Animals speak in silence. People don't always know how." He looked at her, heart full and aching. "I've been surrounded by people for years, and I've never felt more seen than I do when you walk into a barn." Her cheeks flushed, and she looked away. But she didn't give his jacket back. That night, Bo couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Mira's words, about silence and being seen, about how for the first time in as long as he could remember, he wasn't counting the hours until bedtime, dreading another evening alone with his thoughts. The next morning, he found a mug of coffee on the porch railing, still hot. No note. No explanation. Just coffee exactly how he liked it, black with 1 sugar. He started leaving things for her too. A new pair of work gloves when he noticed hers were worn through. A thermos of soup on cold days. They rarely spoke about these small kindnesses. They didn't need to. One evening he spotted her sitting on the steps of the small caretaker's cottage at the edge of his property where she stayed. She was reading, her face lit by the golden sunset. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. She looked up, surprised but moved over. "It's your property. Doesn't make it less your space." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon. Finally he spoke. "You never talk about where you came from. Before here," she closed her book. "Not much to tell. I lived in the city. It didn't suit me." "Family?" "None left." He nodded. He understood loss. His parents had died when he was in college, leaving him the ranch and no one to share it with. "Why'd you leave the city?" he asked. She was quiet so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I trusted someone I shouldn't have. Learned my lesson." There was a world of hurt in those simple words. Bo knew better than to push. "Their loss," he said instead. The next day, he noticed the old bench outside the barn where Mira liked to sit was wobbling. While she was busy with the afternoon feeding, he grabbed his tools and fixed it, making it stronger, more secure. When she found him there, testing his work, she paused. "You didn't have to do that. Wanted to," he said simply. Over the weeks that followed, something changed between them. Not in big ways, but in the small moments. The way she'd leave a slice of pie on his desk when she baked. The way he'd slow his truck if he saw her walking the property, offering her a ride even if she was only going a short distance. They began having dinner together sometimes. Simple meals at the kitchen table, talking about the animals, the weather, books they'd read. Bo found himself looking forward to these evenings more than the fancy fundraisers and business dinners he was expected to attend in town. With Mira, he didn't have to be Bo Callan, wealthy rancher. He could just be Bo. One night after they'd finished eating, Mira surprised him by asking a personal question. "Don't you get lonely in this big house?" He considered lying, saying what he always said, that he was too busy for relationships, that he liked his solitude. Instead, he found himself telling the truth, every day, until recently. Her eyes met his, and something unspoken passed between them. She started to say something, but was interrupted by the ringing of Bo's phone. It was his lawyer, Martin. "Bo, we have a situation. I just received notice of a legal claim against part of your property. A woman named Vanessa Cortland says she has a contract giving her rights to the East Meadow and the caretaker's cottage. Says you signed it years ago when you were partners." Bo felt the blood drain from his face. Vanessa, his first major business partner. The woman who'd nearly destroyed him when she walked away with half their investors after their relationship soured. "That's impossible," Bo said. "She's got a document with your signature. It's dated right after your parents died when you were restructuring the business." It looks legitimate, Bo. As Bo hung up, he realized Mira was watching him with concern. Bad news? She asked. Nothing I can't handle, he lied, but inside he was panicking. If Vanessa won, she'd take the meadow where his best grazing land was, and the cottage where Mira lived. The next morning, a sleek black car pulled up to the ranch. Vanessa stepped out, looking as polished and calculated as ever in her designer suit and perfect blonde hair. "Bo, darling," she called, air kissing his cheek when he met her on the porch. It's been too long. From the corner of his eye, he saw Mira watching from the barn doorway, her face unreadable. "What do you want, Vanessa?" he asked coldly. "Just what's mine," she said, smile never faltering. "That little contract you signed, I've decided it's time to cash in." "We'll see about that. Martin says it won't hold up in court." "Are you sure?" Her smile turned predatory. "I have powerful friends now, Bo. This could get messy. Your reputation, your business connections, all dragged through a public fight." As she spoke, Bo saw Mira turn and walk back into the barn, shoulders slumped. Later, he found her packing her few belongings into a duffel bag. "What are you doing?" he asked, heart pounding. "I should go," she said quietly. "I don't want to be in the middle of your legal problems." "Mira, this isn't about you. The cottage is part of the dispute, isn't it?" When he didn't answer, she nodded. "I thought so. I've been in the middle of ugly fights before, Bo. I won't do it again." "Please," he said, reaching for her hand. "Don't leave, not like this." She looked at him, her eyes filled with a sadness that broke his heart. "I came here for peace, to start over. I can't stay if there's going to be a battle." That night, Bo couldn't sleep. He paced his empty house, thinking about Mira, about Vanessa, about everything he stood to lose. Not just land, not just money, but the first real connection he'd felt in years. The first time his big empty house had started to feel like it might someday be a home. The next morning, Bo went straight to Martin's office in town. His lawyer greeted him with a worried expression. "I've reviewed the contract, Bo. It doesn't look good. Vanessa's claiming you promised her the East Meadow and cottage as part of your business arrangement from years ago." Bo slammed his fist on the desk. "That's ridiculous. I would never sign away part of my family's land." "The signature looks authentic." Martin pushed a copy across the desk. "And it's dated 6 months after your parents died when you were trying to expand the ranch operations." Bo stared at the document. The signature did look like his, but he had no memory of signing it. Those months after his parents' death were a blur of grief and pressure. "Even if I did sign this, there's no way it's enforceable after all these years." Martin sighed. "Normally I'd agree, but there's no expiration date on the agreement, and Vanessa's hired Curtis Drummond as her attorney." Bo's stomach dropped. Drummond was the most ruthless lawyer in the state, known for dragging out cases until his opponents ran out of money or patience. "How long will this take to resolve?" Bo asked. "Months at least, maybe longer. And Vanessa's asking for immediate occupancy of the cottage while the case proceeds." Bo thought of Mira, already packing her things. He couldn't lose her, not like this. "Fight it," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes." When Bo returned to the ranch, he drove straight to the caretaker's cottage. Mira's truck was still there, but he knew she wouldn't stay much longer. He knocked on the door, and when she opened it, he could see she'd been crying. "Don't go," he said simply. "Bo, I told you, I can't. You can stay in the main house. There's plenty of room." She shook her head. "That's not a solution." "Then I'll build you another cottage on the west side of the property, away from the legal dispute." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He took a deep breath. "Because for the first time since my parents died, this place feels like home again, and it's because of you." Mira looked away, her hands trembling slightly. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," he said. "I know you're the most honest person I've ever met. I know the animals trust you. I know when you're around I feel like maybe I'm not just the rich rancher everyone wants something from." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I came here to get away from my past. Bo, not to get tangled in someone else's. Give me 2 weeks," he pleaded. "Just 2 weeks to try and sort this out. If I can't, I'll help you find another job, somewhere better." After what felt like forever, she nodded. 2 weeks. That night, Bo made dinner at the main house and invited Mira to join him. They ate in the kitchen rather than the formal dining room, and for the first time he told her about his parents, about how he'd struggled to keep the ranch going while grieving their loss. "Is that when you met Vanessa?" Mira asked. Bo nodded. "She had connections to cattle buyers in California, promised she could double our business, and for a while she did." "What happened?" He stared into his coffee cup. "I thought it was love. Turned out she just wanted access to my client list. She left and took half our business with her." He looked up. "I swear, I don't remember signing away any part of this land." "I believe you," Mira said, and the simple words warmed him more. Then she could know. Over the next few days, Mira continued working with the animals, but now she returned to the main house in the evenings. Bo gave her the guest room furthest from his, not wanting her to feel uncomfortable. Slowly, the big house began to change. Fresh flowers appeared in the kitchen. The smell of baking bread filled the air one afternoon. Books migrated from shelves to side tables, looking actually read rather than just decorative. One evening, Bo came in from a late meeting in town to find Mira curled up in the living room reading. She'd built a fire in the fireplace that hadn't been used in years. "Sorry," she said, starting to get up. "I should have asked before using this room." "Please don't," he said quickly. "I like seeing the house being lived in. It's been too empty for too long." He sat in the armchair across from her. "What are you reading?" She held up the book. "Found it in your library. It's about herbal remedies for livestock. I thought it might help with that cough some of the calves have developed." They talked about the animals, about books, about the coming change of seasons. Neither mentioned Vanessa or the lawsuit or the fact that Mira's 2-week deadline was approaching. The next morning, Bo was surprised to find Mira already in the kitchen making breakfast. "You don't have to cook for me," he said. "I know, but you've been letting me stay here. It's the least I can do." As they ate, Bo found himself studying her face, the way her eyes crinkled slightly when she smiled, the small scar near her left eyebrow, the softness of her expression when she was thinking. "Tell me something about your life before you came here," he said suddenly. She stiffened slightly. "Not much to tell." "Everyone has a story." She pushed her food around her plate. "I was engaged in Chicago. He was a business partner in the marketing firm where I worked. I thought we were building a life together. What happened? I found out he was only with me to get information about our clients. When I confronted him, he denied everything. Made me look crazy in front of our co-workers." She swallowed hard. "By the time it was clear I was right, he'd already taken my biggest clients and half our staff to start his own company." Bo reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm sorry." She squeezed his hand briefly before pulling away. "It was a year ago. I'm over it." But the pain in her eyes told a different story. That afternoon, Vanessa showed up at the ranch unannounced. She wore riding clothes, though Bo knew she'd never ridden a horse in her life. "Just checking on my investment," she said sweetly, looking around the property. "I've been thinking the cottage would make a charming weekend retreat." "You're not getting the cottage or the meadow," Bo said firmly. "Oh, and who's the pretty little thing I saw coming out of your barn earlier? Your new caretaker?" Her smile was razor sharp. "Does she know she's about to lose her home?" "Leave her out of this," Vanessa laughed. "You always did have a soft spot for strays, Bo. Remember that 3-legged dog you insisted on keeping?" "What was his name?" "Lucky," he said through gritted teeth. "That's right, Lucky." She stepped closer. "Here's the deal. I don't actually want your precious meadow. I want the Hargrove contract. Sign it over to my company, and I'll tear up our little real estate agreement." The Hargrove contract was Bo's biggest cattle deal worth millions. Losing it would hurt, but not as much as losing the land his father had worked so hard to add to the ranch. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "Don't think too long. My lawyer files for temporary possession of the cottage next week." After Vanessa left, Bo found Mira in the barn tending to a sick calf. "I saw her talking to you," Mira said without looking up. "Your ex?" "Business partner. And yes, we were involved, but it was a long time ago." "She's beautiful," Mira said quietly. "She's poison," Bo replied. "Don't let her get to you." Later that night after dinner, Bo received a call from Martin. "I've been digging into the contract," his lawyer said excitedly, And I think I found something. The paper it's printed on has a watermark from the manufacturer. I checked with them, and that particular watermark wasn't used until 2018. What does that mean? It means the document is a forgery. It couldn't have been created when she claims it was. I need more time to build the case, but this could be our way out. Bo felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He hurried to find Mira, who was sitting on the porch swing watching the stars. Good news? She asked, seeing his expression. Martin thinks the contract might be fake. He's building a case. Mira's smile was cautious. That's wonderful. It means you can stay, Bo said, sitting beside her. If you want to. She was quiet for a long moment. The 2 weeks are almost up. Forget the 2 weeks. I don't want you to leave. Ever. Fere. Words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Mira looked away. Bo, you barely know me. I know enough. He repeated his words from before. The rest I want to learn if you'll let me. She looked at him then, her eyes shining. I'm scared. Of what? Of trusting again. Of believing this could be real. He took her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. It's the most real thing I've ever felt, he said softly. The next day, Bo had a meeting in town with Martin to discuss strategy for fighting Vanessa's claim. When he returned home, the house was strangely quiet. Mira, he called, but there was no answer. He found a note on the kitchen table. Vanessa came by. She showed me photos of you two together from last month. Said you've been seeing each other all along. That this is all some game you play with your employees. I don't know what to believe anymore, but I know I can't go through this again. Please don't try to find me. Bo's hands shook as he read the note. Photos from last month? He hadn't seen Vanessa in years until she showed up with her bogus land claim. He ran to the barn, the cottage, the paddocks, all the places Mira might be. But her truck was gone, and so were her few belongings. Pete approached, looking concerned. Boss, you okay? Did you see Mira leave? Or Vanessa come by? Pete nodded. Saw a blonde woman in a fancy car about an hour ago. She talked to Mira by the barn, showed her something on her phone. Mira looked real upset after. Bo slammed his fist against the barn wall. She's lying. Whatever she showed Mira, it's fake. Like that contract? Pete asked. Exactly like that. Bo pulled out his phone. I have to find Mira. But her phone went straight to voicemail. Bo drove to town, checking the bus station, the small hotel, anywhere she might have gone. No one had seen her. That night, he returned home defeated. The house felt emptier than ever. He walked through the rooms, noticing all the small ways Mira had changed them. The fresh flowers now beginning to wilt. The book she'd been reading, still marked with her place. In the guest room, he found a scarf she'd left behind hanging on the bedpost. He touched it gently, remembering how she'd worn it the day they'd watched the sunset together. His phone rang. Martin again. I've got more evidence, his lawyer said. Vanessa's been digitally altering photos to make it look like you two have been meeting secretly. She's desperate, Bo. I think we can not only beat this contract claim but countersue for fraud. It doesn't matter, Bo said heavily. She's already won. Mira's gone. After he hung up, Bo walked out to the porch. The night was clear and cold, stars glittering overhead. The ranch stretched out before him, all the land, all the wealth he'd worked so hard to protect, and suddenly none of it mattered, because the one thing that had made it feel like home was gone. Morning came, bringing no comfort to Bo. He hadn't slept, instead spending the night calling Mira's phone and driving the roads around his property, looking for any sign of her. Pete found him in the barn at dawn, checking on the animals Mira had cared for. No luck finding her? Pete asked. Bo shook his head. It's like she vanished. You know, boss, there's only a few places she could have gone in this county. Oak Ridge isn't exactly full of hiding spots. I've checked the motel, the boarding house, even called the next town over. Pete scratched his chin. What about Old Widow? Jenkins? Mira mentioned helping her with her garden sometimes. Said the old lady reminded her of her grandmother. Bo hadn't thought of that. Agatha Jenkins lived in a small cottage on the edge of town, keeping mostly to herself since her husband passed. An hour later, Bo pulled up to Agatha's cottage. Mira's truck wasn't there, but he knocked anyway. Agatha opened the door, eyeing him suspiciously. "Bo Callan, what brings the county's richest rancher to my doorstep?" "I'm looking for Mira. Have you seen her?" The old woman's expression gave nothing away. "And why would you be looking for her?" "Because she left based on lies, and I need to explain." Agatha studied his face for a long moment. "She's not here, but I did see her yesterday. Girl was upset, said she was heading back to the city." She paused. "Said she'd been foolish to think she could start over." "Did she say which city?" "Chicago, I believe. Said she had a cousin there who'd take her in." Bo thanked her and turned to leave. "Mr. Callan," Agatha called after him. "That girl's been hurt before, badly. Whatever you're planning, be gentle with her heart." Back at the ranch, Bo found Martin waiting for him. "I've been trying to call you," his lawyer said. "We've got her. I have proof Vanessa forged that contract, and the photos she's been showing around, also fakes. We can end this today." Bo barely registered the words. "Mira's gone back to Chicago." Martin looked confused. "Your caretaker. What does that have to do with the lawsuit?" "Everything," Bo said simply. "Call Vanessa. Tell her I want to meet. Today." 2 hours later, Vanessa swept into Martin's office looking confident and polished. "Come to surrender, Bo?" she asked, settling into a chair. "Actually," Martin said, sliding a folder across the desk, "we have evidence your contract is a forgery. The paper wasn't manufactured until years after the date on the document." Vanessa's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "A simple mistake. The original was damaged, so I had it recopied." "And these photos?" Martin produced printouts of Bo and Vanessa supposedly meeting at a restaurant last month. "Digital analysis shows they've been manipulated. The date stamps are fake." For the first time, real fear showed in Vanessa's eyes. "We could press charges," Bo said quietly. "Forgery, fraud, extortion." "You wouldn't," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Here's my offer," Bo continued. "You sign a statement admitting the contract is false. You make a public apology. And you leave Oak Ridge County for good. In return, we don't file criminal charges." "And if I refuse?" Martin smiled coldly. "Then I call the district attorney, who happens to be a good friend. I'm sure he'd be very interested in this case." Vanessa's perfectly manicured hands trembled slightly as she reached for the statement Martin had prepared. "Why did you do it?" Bo asked as she signed. "You're successful now. Why come after my land after all these years?" Her eyes flashed with old anger. "Because you moved on. You rebuilt without me. I wanted you to remember how much power I still had over you." "You never had power over me," Bo said. "You just had my trust, and you broke it." After Vanessa left, Martin clapped Bo on the shoulder. "Congratulations. The ranch is safe." But Bo felt hollow. The ranch doesn't matter if Mira's not here. That evening, Bo sat in his study, staring at Mira's scarf, still draped over the chair where he'd placed it. He picked up his phone and called Pete. "I need you to take over the ranch for a few days," he said. "Everything okay, boss? I'm going to Chicago." The flight seemed endless. Bo had never been good at sitting still, and now, trapped in the small airplane seat, his mind raced with all the things he wanted to tell Mira, and one fear he couldn't shake. What if she didn't want to hear any of it? Chicago was bigger and louder than he'd imagined. He checked into a hotel downtown and opened his laptop. He had a name, Dalton, and a connection to Chicago, but the city was massive. Finding one woman would be nearly impossible, unless he remembered Mira mentioning she'd worked at a marketing firm with her ex-fiancé. It wasn't much, but it was a start. After hours of searching online, he found 3 major marketing firms that had experienced partner splits or employee exoduses in the past year. One of them, Hammond and Associates, had lost several major clients to a new competitor started by a former partner. The next morning, Bo dressed in his best suit, the one he wore for cattle auctions and bank meetings, and headed to Hammond and Associates. The receptionist looked surprised when he asked for information about Mira Dalton. "I'm sorry, sir, but Miss Dalton no longer works here. She left almost a year ago." "I know," Bo said, "but I need to find her. It's important." "I'm afraid I can't give out personal information about former employees," she said firmly. Bo was about to leave when a woman approached the desk, Did I hear you asking about Mira? She asked. Yes, Bo said, hope rising. Do you know her? The woman studied him. I'm Lisa. I was Mira's friend here before everything fell apart. She crossed her arms. What do you want with her? Bo told her everything. About the ranch, about Vanessa's lies, about how Mira had brought life back to his empty house. Lisa's expression softened. You really care about her? More than I've ever cared about anyone, Bo admitted. Please, if you know where she is. I don't know exactly, Lisa said, but her cousin Jamie lives in Wicker Park. They were close. Jamie Dalton works at a bookstore called Turning Pages. Bo thanked her profusely. An hour later, he was walking into a small, cozy bookstore in a neighborhood lined with trees and brownstone buildings. A young woman with glasses was arranging books on a display table. Excuse me, Bo said. Are you Jamie Dalton? She looked up, surprised. Yes, can I help you? I'm looking for your cousin, Mira. My name is Bo Callan. Jamie's eyes widened. The rancher? Yes. Is she here? In Chicago? Jamie hesitated, clearly protective. She told me what happened. Whatever she told you, it wasn't the whole story, Bo said earnestly. Vanessa, the woman who showed her those photos, she lied. The pictures were fake, part of a scheme to get my land. And you came all the way to Chicago to tell Mira that? I'd go anywhere to find her, Bo said simply. Jamie studied him for a long moment. She's not staying with me. She's at the lakeside. Hotel down by the water. Room 312, she paused. Don't hurt her, Mr. Callan. She's been through enough. The hotel was modest but clean, overlooking Lake Michigan. Bo's heart pounded as he rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. What if she refused to see him? What if she didn't believe him? He knocked on door 312 and waited, holding his breath. The door opened, and there she was. Her hair was down, framing her face in soft waves. She wore a simple sweater and jeans. Her eyes widened in shock. Bo, what are you doing here? Looking for you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Can I come in, please? She hesitated, then stepped back, allowing him inside. The room was small, with a view of the lake. Her suitcase sat open on a stand, clothes neatly folded inside. How did you find me? She asked. I talked to Widow Jenkins, then Lisa at your old firm, then your cousin. You went to my old office? She looked stunned. I would have searched every office in Chicago if I had to. She crossed her arms, defensive. Why? Because Vanessa lied to you. The contract she claimed gave her rights to my land. It was a forgery. And those photos she showed you, also fake. She manipulated them to make it look like we'd been meeting. Mira sat on the edge of the bed. Why would she do that? Spite. Jealousy. She saw how I looked at you and knew what it meant. And what did it mean? Mira asked quietly. Bo took a deep breath. It meant I was falling in love with you. She looked away, blinking rapidly. Don't say that. It's the truth. I've never said those words to anyone before, not even Vanessa. How can I believe you? Her voice trembled. After everything that happened with David, my ex, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone fool me again. Bo reached into his pocket and pulled out her scarf. You left this behind. I've been carrying it with me since you left. He set it gently on the bed beside her. I'm not asking you to believe me right now. I'm just asking you to come back to the ranch. See for yourself. Vanessa's gone. She signed a confession, admitting. Everything was a lie. Mira touched the scarf, running her fingers over the soft fabric. I didn't want to leave, she admitted. But when I saw those pictures... I know, Bo said gently. And I understand why you ran. Your heart was already broken once. It hurt, she whispered, seeing you with her, thinking it had all been a game to you. It was never a game to me. He knelt in front of her, not touching her, just looking into her eyes. The ranch felt like a home again because of you. The animals miss you. I miss you. A tear slipped down her cheek. I was just starting to believe I could trust again. You can, he said fervently. I promise you can trust me. They talked for hours, Bo telling her everything about Vanessa's scheme and how it had been revealed. Mira sharing more about her past with David, how deeply his betrayal had wounded her. As evening fell, painting the lake with golden light, Bo asked, "Will you come home? Back to the ranch?" Mira looked out at the water, then back at him. "I'm scared, Bo. Not of you, but of hoping again." "We can take it slow," he promised. "I just want you back where you belong." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I need to think. Can you give me until tomorrow?" He nodded, disappointed but understanding. "I'm staying at the Grand Hotel downtown, room 824. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." That night, Bo barely slept. He stood at his hotel window, looking out at the city lights, so different from the starlit skies of the ranch. Had he said enough? Too much? Would she believe him? The soft knock at his door came just after dawn. He opened it to find Mira standing there, her suitcase beside her. "I want to come home," she said simply. Bo's heart soared. Without thinking, he reached for her, pulling her into his arms. She stiffened for a moment, then relaxed against him, her hands gripping the back of his shirt. "I missed you," he whispered into her hair. "I missed the animals," she replied, but he could hear the smile in her voice. They flew back to Oak Ridge that afternoon. As they drove from the airport toward the ranch, Mira grew quieter, looking out at the familiar landscape. "Having second thoughts?" Bo asked. She shook her head. "Just remembering how I felt when I first came here, how peaceful it was." "It can be peaceful again," he promised. When they pulled into the long driveway, Pete was waiting on the porch. He broke into a wide grin when he saw Mira. "Welcome back," he called. "The animals have been miserable without you." As if on cue, Willow nickered from the paddock, trotting over to the fence. Mira smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since Bo had found her in Chicago. She walked to the mare, stroking her nose gently. "I missed you too," she murmured. That night, Mira moved back into the guest room in the main house. After dinner, they sat on the porch, watching the stars come out. "Vanessa really confessed?" Mira asked. "Signed a statement and everything. She's leaving town for good." "I'm sorry I didn't trust you," she said quietly. "After David, I couldn't bear to be fooled again." Bo took her hand. "You have nothing to apologize for. But I want you to know I will never betray your trust. Not ever." She looked at him, her eyes soft in the moonlight. "I believe you." And for the first time since she'd arrived at the ranch all those months ago, Bo felt a peace settle over him. The land was safe. Mira was home, and the future, which had seemed so empty before, now stretched out before them, full of promise. The weeks that followed were some of the happiest Bo had ever known. Each morning, he'd wake to find Mira already busy with the animals, her quiet competence bringing order to the ranch. Each evening, they'd share dinner and talk about their day, their conversations growing deeper as trust between them strengthened. The caretaker's cottage stood empty. Bo had offered to renovate it for Mira, but she seemed content staying in the main house. Neither of them mentioned her eventually moving back to the cottage, as if both feared breaking the spell that had settled over them. One morning, Bo found Mira on the porch, staring at a letter in her hands. "Bad news?" he asked, sitting beside her. "It's from my old boss at Hammond & Associates," she said. "Lisa must have told him I was back in contact. He's offering me my job back, with a promotion." Bo felt his heart sink. "In Chicago?" She nodded, not meeting his eyes. "Head of Client Relations. It's a good position. Are you considering it?" His voice was carefully neutral, despite the panic rising in his chest. "I don't know," she admitted. "A few months ago, I would have jumped at the chance. It would be a way to prove David didn't destroy my career. And now?" She folded the letter carefully. "Now I'm not sure what I want." That night, Bo couldn't sleep. The thought of Mira leaving, going back to Chicago, back to the life she'd left behind, was unbearable. But he couldn't ask her to stay, not when she had a chance to reclaim what she'd lost. The next morning, he found her in the barn, tending to a new foal born just days earlier. "Have you decided?" he asked without preamble. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "About the job? Not yet. I won't try to influence you," he said. "But I want you to know something before you decide." "What's that?" "If you stay, it won't be as my caretaker, not anymore." Her eyes widened. "Are you firing me?" "No," he said quickly. I'm asking you to be more, to be my partner, in everything. Bo, I love you, Mira. I think I've loved you since that first day when you walked into my office, not caring about my money or my name, just seeing me, the real me. She looked away, blinking rapidly. You don't have to say that because you're afraid. I'll leave. I'm saying it because it's true. He stepped closer, taking her hands. I've never been more certain of anything. What exactly are you asking me? I'm asking you to stay, to build a life with me, to make this house a home, our home. She pulled, her hands away gently. I need time to think. Take all the time you need, he said, though it cost him to say it. I'll be here. That afternoon, Bo was fixing a broken fence when Pete approached. Boss, there's someone here to see you, says his name is David Reynolds, from Chicago. Bo froze. David, Mira's ex, the man who had broken her heart and shattered her trust. What was he doing here? He found the man waiting by the main house, tall, expensively dressed, with the polished look of someone used to getting his way. Mr. Callan, David said smoothly, extending his hand. I hope you don't mind my dropping by unannounced. Bo didn't take the offered hand. What are you doing here? Looking for Mira, actually. I heard she was working for you. How did you find her? David smiled thinly. Chicago is a small world in some ways. When I heard Hammond was trying to rehire her, I got curious, did some asking around. Whatever you want from her, she's moved on, Bo said coldly. Has she? David looked around. The ranch, his gaze dismissive. This is quite a change from the life she knew in Chicago, the career she built, the career you tried to destroy. David's smile didn't falter. Ancient history. I'm here to make amends, and to offer her something better than playing farm girl. I'm not playing at anything, Bo said, his anger rising. She belongs here. Does she? Or is that just what you want to believe? David stepped closer. I know Mira, known her for years. She's ambitious, talented. This, he gestured at the ranch, is just a detour for her. A healing period after our disagreement. Before Bo could respond, he heard Mira's voice behind him. David! She stood there, looking shocked. What are you doing here? David's expression softened into something that might have looked like genuine regret to someone who didn't know better. Mira, he said warmly, you look wonderful. Country life agrees with you. She approached cautiously, stopping beside Bo. You didn't answer my question. I came to apologize, David said, and to make you an offer. I'm not interested in anything you have to offer, she said firmly. Hear me out. He reached into his jacket and produced an envelope. I've started a new agency. We're growing fast, taking on major clients. I want you to join us as a partner. Mira stared at the envelope but didn't take it. A partner, full equity stake, corner office, creative, control. He glanced at Bo. And a life back in the world you belong in. Bo felt sick. He'd offered Mira his heart, his home. But could he compete with the career she'd worked so hard for? The chance to prove herself in the field she'd trained for? I'll leave you to think about it, David continued, setting the envelope on the porch railing. My cell number's inside. I'm staying at the Oak Ridge Inn until tomorrow. After David left, Mira and Bo stood in silence, the envelope between them like a barrier. Are you going to open it? Bo finally asked. I don't know. She looked troubled. I never expected to. See him again. Do you still have feelings for him? The question hurt to ask, but he had to know. No, she said immediately. That ended the moment I discovered his betrayal, but part of me wants to know what's in that offer. The chance to prove I'm as good as he is, that I can succeed despite what he did. Bo nodded slowly. I understand. And he did, even though it broke his heart. You should think about it, he said quietly. Take the night. Read his offer. That evening, they ate dinner in uncomfortable silence. The envelope sat untouched on the kitchen counter. After they finished, Mira went outside to check on the foal one last time before bed. Bo watched her from the window, the graceful way she moved among the animals, how they responded to her gentle presence. How could he ask her to give up the career she'd built, the life she'd known, just to stay with him? He loved her too much to be selfish. If Chicago was where she belonged, where she could truly shine, then he had to let her go. When she came back inside, he was waiting in the living room. "I want you to take the job," he said abruptly. She looked startled. "What?" "Whichever job you want, Hammond's or David's. You deserve to reclaim your career." "Bo, I won't stand in your way," he continued. "I care about you too much to hold you back." Her eyes flashed with sudden anger. "Is that what you think? That staying here would be holding me back? Wouldn't it? You trained for marketing, built a career there. Being a ranch caretaker was never your plan." "Don't tell me what my plan was," she said fiercely. "Yes, I was good at marketing, but I was never happy there. Always competing, always trying to impress people who only cared about the bottom line." "Then why haven't you thrown away that envelope or Hammond's offer?" She looked away. "Because I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of believing this is real," she said softly. "That I could actually be happy here with you." Bo felt hope rising in his chest. "You can be. We can be." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "How do I know? My judgment hasn't exactly been reliable. I thought David loved me, and look how that turned out." "I'm not David," Bo said firmly, "and you're not the same person you were then. Neither am I." He crossed to the fireplace and picked up a small wooden box from the mantel. When he turned back to her, his expression was serious. "Before you came, I had everything money could buy, but nothing that mattered. An empty house, a successful business that meant nothing at the end of the day. I was respected but never known." He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring with a small diamond. "This was my mother's. My father gave it to her when they started the ranch together. They built this place with love, not just hard work. After they died, I lost sight of that." Mira's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "I'm not offering you a job," Bo said. "I'm offering you a life here with me, equal partners in everything, the ranch, the house, the future." "Bo, we've only known each other a few months," she whispered. "Sometimes a few months is all it takes to recognize what you've been searching for your whole life." He held out the ring. "Whether you take this now or years from now, my heart is yours. It stayed with you, even when you left." Tears spilled down Mira's cheeks. "What if I make a mistake? What if I hurt you? What if you don't?" he countered gently. "What if this is exactly where you're meant to be?" She looked from the ring to his face, then back again. Slowly, she reached for the envelope on the counter. Bo's heart sank, thinking she was choosing David's offer. Instead, she tore the envelope in half without opening it, letting the pieces fall to the floor. "I don't need to read it," she said. "I already know what I want." She stepped forward, placing her hands on either side of his face. "I want this place, these animals, this life." Her voice softened. "I want you, Bo Callan. Your quiet strength, your gentle heart. The way you see me, really see me." "Is that a yes?" he asked, hardly daring to hope. She smiled through her tears. "Yes. 1,000 times, yes." That night, they sat on the porch swing, watching the stars come out over the ranch. Mira's head rested on Bo's shoulder, his mother's ring glinting on her finger. "What made you change your mind?" he asked. "About David's offer, about staying?" She was quiet for a moment. "Remember that first day when you said I had a gift with the animals?" "I remember. You told me they trust me, but what you didn't know is that I trust them too. When animals accept you, it's because they sense something true in you, something real." She looked up at him. "They accepted you long before I did. I should have paid attention." Bo smiled, pulling her closer. "So you're staying because the animals approved of me?" She laughed softly. "I'm staying because here, for the first time in my life, I feel like I belong, not because of what I can do or what I can provide, just because of who I am." The next morning, they found a note tucked under the front door from David. It was brief, just a few lines. "I saw the two of you on the porch last night. I recognize that look. It's what I should have valued instead of clients and contracts. Be happy, Mira. You've found where you belong, and for what it's worth, I truly am sorry." Bo and Mira were married that spring in the East Meadow where the wildflowers bloomed, not a lavish affair with society guests and photographers, but a simple ceremony surrounded by the people and animals who mattered to them. Pete was Bo's best man. Lisa came from Chicago to stand with Mira. Even Widow Jenkins attended, dabbing at her eyes during the vows. That evening, as the sun set over the ranch, their ranch now, Bo and Mira stood on the porch, looking out over the land. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About not going back to Chicago?" Mira shook her head, her eyes bright with happiness. "This is where I was always meant to be. It just took me a while to find my way here." "And to stay," Bo added softly. "And to stay," she agreed, leaning into his embrace. The big house wasn't empty anymore. The dinner table wasn't silent. And as darkness fell over the ranch, lights glowed warmly in every window, turning the once lonely mansion into exactly what Bo had always dreamed it could be, a home.